We heard last week in our Easter story how Jesus was killed. He was crucified, and then 3 days later, how some women went to the tomb. They found that Jesus wasn't in the tomb, and an angel told them Jesus had risen. Jesus was alive. Now they went back and they told Jesus' other friends, who were all hiding together, and they were very sad. And all of his friends didn't know what to make of it. Peter ran to the tomb and found that it was empty, just like the woman had said. And he saw that cloth that Jesus was wrapped in when he was buried, and it was all folded neatly. All of Jesus' followers were so confused. They knew that Jesus was the Son of God, that he was the Messiah that had been promised, the chosen one. So how could he have died? How could it have happened? And then how was Jesus' grave empty? Oh, so many questions. Now, two of Jesus' followers had to leave for Jerusalem the same day, that same day that they found the grave empty. They had to leave, and at some point, probably after lunch, they put their sandals on and started walking the 7 or so miles to a place called Emmaus. It's not really that far, but they were walking quite slowly and talking as they went. The news that Jesus wasn't in the tomb was still brand new. It only happened a few hours ago. First, they were confused that he died. Now they were confused that his tomb was empty. Oh, so much to try and talk about and figure out. And as they were walking, a man on the road, going the same way as them, spoke to them. And the man said, "What are you talking about that makes you so sad?" Now, one of them, a man named Cleopas, was surprised. The man was walking out of Jerusalem. How could he not know what had been happening in Jerusalem? Are you new around here? Are you the only one that doesn't know what's been going on? The stranger said, "What are you talking about?" Now, Cleopas and his friend were surprised, but it gave them a chance to talk to someone about what had happened. You don't know about Jesus of Nazareth. I mean, he was a prophet who said and did many amazing things. He made the deaf people hear. He made blind people see. He made crippled people walk. He healed so many people. He fed more than 5,000 people with just like 5 bread rolls and a couple of fish. One of his friends died and Jesus made him alive again. So many other things too. But, well, the religious leaders hated him and they gave him to the Romans, who crucified him. They killed him. But we were hoping that he would free Israel. We thought Jesus was a king that God promised and that he would create an army and get rid of the Romans. But, well, he's dead. And this was just, 3 days ago. And today, some women told us something which, well, was unbelievable. Early this morning, they went to the tomb, but they didn't find his body. They told us they'd been seen by angels, and the angels said that Jesus was alive. And others went to the tomb too, and they found it just like the women said. But they didn't see Jesus. The man looked at the two of them and said, "You are so foolish. Why are you so slow to believe God and all that he's promised? The prophets wrote that God's chosen one, the Messiah, the one you call Jesus, had to go through all of these things before he could be revealed to everyone." What? I mean, that's some pretty strong words. The followers of Jesus were sad, upset, confused, and then this random stranger on the road tells them they're slow to believe and foolish. Why on earth would he say that? Who on earth is this guy? There's something that these two disciples of Jesus didn't know. The man talking to them, well, actually, he wasn't a random stranger at all. He knew who these two men were. He knew what had happened in Jerusalem. He knew Jesus wasn't in the tomb, that Jesus was alive, not dead. Now, how did he know all of this? Because the man was, well, he was Jesus. What? How? I mean, why didn't they recognize him? I mean, they knew Jesus. That is the really cool part. You see, Jesus needed to explain some things to them, but he couldn't do it if they knew who he was. They'd have so many questions. They'd be so excited about what would happen next. And Jesus needed to explain what had happened, not what was going to happen. Jesus needed to show them who he was and that everything that had happened, Jesus' death, his burial, and his being made alive again, was all written down hundreds of years ago. God wanted there to be no doubt who Jesus was and that everything had been planned. So God stopped them from recognizing Jesus' face and his voice. And so, as they walked, this stranger who was really Jesus started with Moses right back in the beginning of what we call the Bible and explained all the prophecies of the Messiah, the promised one, and how they all pointed to Jesus. The men were in awe. It was amazing. Too soon, they got to the village that they were heading for, Emmaus. Wait, they said, it's getting late. Stay with us, have a meal, and you can continue on your way tomorrow. So, the followers of Jesus invited the stranger, really Jesus, to eat with them. They made a simple meal and they sat down to eat together. The stranger, Jesus, gave thanks to God for the food and broke some bread into pieces and gave it to them, just like he had with some of his friends before he died. Then, and only then, did God allow them to recognize who Jesus was, who this stranger was. It was like they could see in focus, maybe for the first time. And there, in front of them, wasn't a stranger. It was Jesus, the one who died, the one who had risen from the dead. And he was eating with them. As soon as they realized it was Jesus, they wanted to speak to him. And in that very second, the very moment before they'd even spoken a word, Jesus disappeared. The two looked at each other to see if they both saw what they thought they saw. Jesus? Yes, Jesus. Jesus! Jesus! You can almost see them with their mouths open, just amazed, and then just laughing with joy. Didn't you feel it too? Yes, of course I did. As we were talking on the road, it felt as though my heart was on fire, but in a good way. It was so exciting. How could we not have recognized him? They didn't even finish their meal. Even though it was dark and they'd walked half the day already, they left everything right where it was, put their sandals back on, and rushed back to Jerusalem to tell everyone what had happened. Jesus was alive and he'd spoken to them. He'd explained everything. How Jesus had to die to take away the sin that they had, that you and me have. And he nailed it to the cross with him to break the power of sin and death and hell, and that it has over all humans. And because Jesus didn't have any sin of his own, he could pay for it all and give a new life, a life in Jesus to anyone that asked for it, that anyone that asked for forgiveness from the things that they do wrong. And that was amazing. After this, Jesus showed himself lots more times to lots more people. Now that these two men had told everyone what Jesus had explained to them, they all understood. They all got it for the first time. Jesus didn't come to defeat the Romans like they thought. He came to defeat death. And he had. Hundreds of people saw Jesus. He proved that he was alive because the proof that Jesus had broken the power of death was, well, that he wasn't dead. So many people saw Jesus alive that there could be no doubt about it. Eventually, Jesus did go back to heaven, and he's there right now calling to you and to me to come to him. Now, it's okay not to know everything, to find some things confusing, to not have all the answers. There are a lot of things that Jesus did that I don't understand, that you don't understand, that none of us can really understand properly. Jesus was just a stranger initially to these two men on the road to Emmaus. But he explained everything to them. Through understanding what the Bible said about him, they learned who Jesus was. And after all of that, after just a moment of prayer, they truly saw Jesus. And it can be the same for you and me too. Jesus asked us to speak to God, which is called prayer, and to tell him that we have done things that are wrong, and ask for it to be taken away so that we can go to heaven. Jesus died to take those sins away. The price has already been paid. The only thing left to do is to come to Jesus. And then you will see Jesus for who he is. And your life will never be the same. And you will have happiness and joy in your heart too, just like those two men did. They went and they told everyone. I have found Jesus. I've seen Jesus for who he is. I've had my sins forgiven, and I've given Jesus my life. And so now I want to tell you all about Jesus too.